Welcome back. We have a new ship for this mission. It's the Longbow Bomber. Well, the manual calls it a bomber, but it gives it the designation F/A-76, so maybe it's a strike echo rather than a bomber. By comparison with the earlier games bombers, it's more of a missile boat. You can see we've got 16 missiles and 4 torpedoes. And our front armament, well, it's got a bit in common with the broadsword. It's got a lot of firepower, but not much range.
Enemy sighted, Colonel.
Break and attack.
Going out.
Anyway, the large number of missiles means I can do things that I wouldn't normally. Like corvettes, I'd normally strafe, but I've got 4 torpedoes, and I've only got use for 4 torpedoes, of which this is one of them. So, goodbye, Kamani.
I have failed my race.
The escort fighters here are Stracker. Missiles are pretty difficult to use on Stracker most of the time because they cloak when you fire at them, unless they're firing at something else. So this is actually one of the very rare instances where it's easier to kill fighters that are attacking something other than you, because the longbow struggles to turn to face Stracker that are attacking it because they normally cloak from behind it. Whereas we've got 16 missiles, so there's no real problem with launching these speculatively, because if a few miss, we've got more missiles than there are enemy fighters, or at least that's true for the way I'm going to do the mission, so it doesn't really matter if 1 or 2 of them miss. We do have, in addition to our front guns, a rear turret, and that's going to be an alternative method of engaging this Stracker. I don't usually use this, but I figured I ought to show it off a bit, which probably explains quite why I'm so bad at aiming with it. But it worked in the end. So just these 2 transports left to kill at this nav point now. You can see the autopilot lights turned on. Of course, were we to hit that, we would be in danger of failing the mission, given that you are required to kill every single Gilrathi ship here. Not that this is going to be particularly difficult in the case of the transports. This one's a long way away. The longbow, unlike other bombers we've flown so far in the Wing Commander series, does actually have an afterburner, but my instincts sort of refuse to allow me to use afterburner fuel in situations where I don't need to, but it would just speed things up a bit. So it took a while there before I overcame that instinct of conserving limited resources and sped up the transition a bit. I guess I didn't have to, I could just cut it out, but I'm getting a bit more impatient about how I do these videos, which isn't a bad thing, I think. Not impatient enough to volley fire some missiles at the transport, but it didn't really matter because it went down quite rapidly anyway.
Enemy sighted, Colonel.
Break and attack.
Going out.
Another 4 Stracker here. These ones, unlike the last set which mostly went after Cobra, have mostly gone after me, which will make killing them a bit harder. But nothing too onerous, especially since the longbow is quite good at shrugging off missile hits. I mean, several will still be bad for you, but 1 or 2 you can normally survive because it's got very good shields and armour. The missile lock indicator's not in a great place though, so that can make it more likely that you'll get hit, though in general the longbow cockpit's pretty bad. I mean, you've got absolutely horrible field of vision, which is somewhat made up for, or made up for is the wrong word, less important than normal, because there's not a huge amount you can do about a lot of what's going on anyway. A longbow is all about getting in, firing your missiles at whatever target there is there and getting away again. And hanging around for turning and dogfighting and such things is not really on the menu. A theme we shall be returning to at the next nav point. I don't know why this Stracker decided to make it easy for me, but let's not complain. We've seen my problems with the last Stracker before now. So that brings us on to the mission's big fight, and the first
Enemy sighted, Colonel.
Kilrathi carrier of the game. This is a Bankara class, but
Break and attack.
Going after.
the none of you who cared about that, I would imagine. It's got 4 dark hits on cap. If I killed those, it would launch another 4, and then 4 Dralthi, and then Factoth. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to kill the carrier instead, so I don't have to fight another 12 fighters. If you'd picked an arrow or a Hellcat, I might have done dogfighting, but you picked a longbow, so I assume you want me to use a bomber as a bomber. That is to say, eliminate the primary target and don't hang around dogfighting unless you have to. So it's a case of missile fire to get rid of a couple of these to open a way to the carrier, and then we'll torpedo the carrier. I don't really think that deliberate bad tactics are something I want to do in this LP, so I'll always do what I think is the appropriate way to do the mission in that fighter. So yeah, I could have fought some more Kilrathi here, but I didn't think it would make a better video, and I'm trying to differentiate the ships a bit, so if I'm in the longbow, I'll use the longbow as a missile boat, and I'll try and do strike rather than dogfighting, whereas I would dogfight in an arrow or a Hellcat. Carrier takes 3 torpedoes to knock out, which is why I used one of my 4 torpedoes on the Corvette earlier. And of course I've got to make sure that they all hit the same area, otherwise the carrier's shields will disperse some of the impact and it won't go down. The yellow turret fire there is actually anti-matter guns and will do my ship no good at all if it were to actually hit, which it didn't. So that just leaves this final Darkit, who is, I think, overcome with the shame of the loss of his carrier, since he doesn't make much of an effort to dodge the incoming death by multiple IR missile occasioned. Because I knew this was the last enemy, and thought, well, why not? Boom. And that about wraps it up. All Kilrathi dead for now, and we can go home and put our feet up.
Need clearance, TCS Victory.
Waste every last one of them, sir. That's what I like to see, cats pushing up daisies. You got clearance?
So, thanks for watching. I have been Ilanin, this has been Wing Commander 3 Heart of the Tiger, and I'll see you next time for more of the same, but in a nebula.
Pretty slick flying, sir.
Thanks, Chief.